Recording in progress.
Swiftly attain the state of Vajradhara. Okay, just let me get that off. Sorry. And let's do the 4 limitless contemplations. Oh gosh. Now she says I didn't receive the link. Just let me do that quickly. She does it now. She didn't receive the link. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Semchen tamche dewatang dewe jutang din pa juchik. Dungal tang, dungal chichu tang trawa juchik. Dungal mepe dewa tampa tang minrawa juchik. Nearing chak tang ni tan trawe tang nom chempo la ne pa juchik. So, good morning for those of you that just came in. If you could turn your cameras on, I know 1 or 2 of you are sick and don't want to, that's okay. But otherwise, I like your cameras, please. So we're going to do the last part of the golden letters, realizing the essential profound Dharma. And this is part 14, believe it or not. I mean, it's a lot of parts, but you know what? I could happily go on. And Gail, we did do the Vesak prayers, but you weren't here. Okay. You said them and we did do them, the aspiration, because Vesak is today, and it is the Buddha's birth, the Buddha's death, the Buddha's enlightenment. I think they're all on one date anyway, but for me, Shakyamuni actually represents all. So whatever you're doing is actually for Shakyamuni. It really is. Anyway, so today I want to do the last session of this. I think there's absolutely, I think this teaching can actually go on for the whole year, because you could take one little theme of the golden letters and then it would be enough for the whole year. And if you look at the golden letter, just remember, because we started off, hello Bet, it's nice to see your face. We started off with looking at what the golden letters really were. And if you remember correctly, that Malamitra, who was a Vidyadhara, that means a knowledge holder, compiled the distilled essence of Dzogchen Nyingtik into 5 series of written text. The golden letters, the copper letters, the variegated letters, the conch shell letters, and the turquoise letters. And the most important one was the golden letters collection, because it's the most important text, and this is where the 3 Vajra verses of Garab Dorje come in, and that's all we really need for life. So just to remind you what the golden letters were, and then maybe sometime later on the year, I'll give you some of those very, very secret instructions that they give in the book, but I'm sure all of you have got that book, The Golden Letters, and would be worth looking at. So I'm going to start with a little story today. And in the story, it says, because in our culture, we overvalue the intellect, we would imagine that to become enlightened demands extraordinary intelligence. In fact, many kinds of cleverness are just further obscurations. There's a Tibetan saying that goes, if you are too clever, you could miss the point entirely. Very interesting. Okay. Patrul Rinpoche said the logical mind seems interesting, but it's actually the seed of delusions, because of that logical mind that we deluded. And people can become obsessed with their own theories and miss the point of everything. And in Tibet, we say theories are like patches on a coat. One day they just wear off. So that's where this story comes from. So one great master in the last century had a disciple who was rather thick-headed, okay, like most of us are. The master had taught him again and again, trying to introduce him to the nature of his mind. Still, he could not get it. Finally, the master became exasperated and told him, look, I want you to carry this bag full of barley up to the top of the mountain over there, but you mustn't stop and rest. Just keep on going until you reach the top. The disciple was quite a simple man, but he had unshakable devotion and trust in his master, and he did exactly what he'd been told, but the bag was heavy. He picked it up and started up the slope of the mountain, not daring to stop because his master told him. He just walked and walked, and the bag got heavier and heavier. It took him a long time. At last, when he reached the top, he dropped the bag. He slumped to the ground, overcome with absolute exhaustion, but very deeply relaxed. He felt the fresh mountain air on his face. All his resistance had dissolved, and with it, his ordinary mind. Everything seemed to stop. At that instant, he suddenly realized the nature of his mind. This is what my master has been showing me all along, he thought. He ran back down the mountain with renewed energy and against all convention, burst into his master's room. I think I've got it now. I've really got it. His master smiled at him knowingly. So you had an interesting climb up the mountain, did you? So basically, if you want to find your nature of mind, it might be a very good idea to do a couple of hours of gym, like some of you do, okay, until I'm finished after 20 minutes of gym, but it might be very good to do a couple of hours, or like Iga goes on these walks, I don't know, for 100 kilometers, and she's carrying a backpack, and everybody looks at her, they think she's mad. But you know what? When you reach a point where you are absolutely exhausted physically, that's where you drop it. And all we have to do is put down our burdens and totally relax, totally effortless. And there is our nature. It never went anywhere. Only we went elsewhere with sin, the ordinary part of our mind. Whatever way will make sense to us is how we are introduced to the nature of mind by anyone who knows it. We can realize it anywhere, sometimes through something. Sometimes we're going through a big problem, a trip, a meeting of someone, and so forth. And it might just happen then. It might happen anywhere. It might happen with a beggar on the street. But Rigpa, which is intrinsic awareness, which is what the golden letters are all about, okay, is not a philosophy. It's not a philosophy. It's not an idea. It's not a thought. It's an experience itself beyond, it's an experience itself beyond karma, cause and effect. And it's actually with us, whatever we're doing, whether the mind is still in shamatha practice or the mind is moving and looking around and there are lots of thoughts, it doesn't make any difference, okay? So it's really, really important when we come to the end of this, that some of you get something from this that you can really introduce in your life, which is very, very important. I think it's, you know, I was thinking to myself today, it's so funny because Ati Yoga or Dzogchen is right at the top of the mountain. So it's the highest level of practice. But isn't it amazing? I was talking to Guru Rinpoche this morning in my practice, and I said, it's so funny to me that comes to you last. That should be first. And then you should go on to you know, Theravada and Mahayana and everything, because that's the easiest to understand, because there's nothing to understand, no thing. You just awaken to it. So it should actually be the only thing, you know, where every day in my prayers I go, please let the Dzogchen Great Perfection Masters bring that to the planet, because for me, that's the only thing that will help people, because I know that Westerners are actually, let's not say they're lazy, but let's say they want the easy way out. So they're never prepared to go through all the stuff to get there. And the going through the stuff is actually irrelevant. It's just if you get it, the going through the stuff is when we clear the way. The diamond that is in the muck is now clean. When we clear the way, then we can see it. But actually, it's not necessary, because that diamond mind, that mind is not affected by any of the things that are going on in our life or by our emotions. So in this final session, let's practice the liberation of our thoughts, feelings, and circumstance. And when you leave this teaching, always remember Garab Dorje's 3 vital points that he gave from the sky to Manjushra Mitra. And when he gave these 3 points, Manjushra Mitra had exactly the same level of understanding as the master. It's like a vase pouring into a vase. And sometimes these masters, if you're at the right place and you're right there and they know you've done all the work and everything, they'll just pour a little nectar into your head, and you know. Such a funny thing, because I think that's my most precious time in my life, is when I suddenly know something. Not when I'm reading and studying and trying to dissect it for all of you. But let's take the 3 points, okay, really important, and remember them and take them from here. We are introduced to who we really are, our nature of mind. And I put in big letters, hi, nature of mind. You've always been there. Hello. I love to see you. Don't go away again. Here I am, ready to receive you. And that's called the view. But remember last week I told you that Lama Lena said that view is a very bad translation for your nature of mind, because she said that the view, when we hear the view in English, we think of a viewer and a view. So if we are in a view, we think we are here and the view is over there. And that's wrong in this instance. So somebody must find another translation for that word of view, because the view is not you are looking at something. The view is being that Rikpa, being that intrinsic awareness, and being able to do whatever you can with that and whatever you have to do in your life. And the second one, we definitively decide on this unique state. That's what I was talking about last time. You can go and listen again if you didn't get it. Our immediate intrinsic awareness, Rikpa. There's nothing beyond Rikpa. When we definitely decide on Rikpa, now my next sentence might offend some of you, I don't know. Rikpa is not made by a creator. Rikpa isn't made by God. If you believe in God, whatever you believe in, it's not. It's actually beyond that. Now, if you look at this sentence that I once gave you, then you understand what I'm saying. Awareness did not come into being out of existence. Existence came into being out of awareness. And that's your path, your meditation. Now, let's go through that. What does that mean? It means everything that we are, our thoughts, our feelings, our houses, our blah, 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 whatever, comes out of awareness. Awareness creates them. Intrinsic awareness, Rikpa, creates all the things in your existence, not the other way around, where our parents are saying to us, now you must get your education, and this is what's like, and this is what we do in our family, and blah, 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 blah. Okay. And then suddenly, as you're going along your life, you suddenly say, oh, awareness. No, awareness was there before your parents gave you all the blah. And when you understand the difference in that, it makes a big difference to definitively say, well, then I need to know Rikpa. I need to know awareness. Once you understand that all existence came out of awareness, not the other way around as we are taught in a dualistic world, then you can definitively decide on it. And that's the path or the meditation. So the view, the path or the meditation. And the third thing, which we're going to do today, we continue directly with confidence in liberation. We continue directly with confidence in liberation. And what's the meaning? I put, oh, we know for sure that if all existence, including our problems, including our thoughts, including our emotions, including everything, if it arose from the essence, then if we don't grasp it, fix it, meddle with it, it will surely be liberated by itself and go back into the essence by itself, because that's what we learn, that here's the essence and it's got a nature awareness, and out of that, all the creative things come out. And because they come out, they must go back into it. Now, this is so, so important for us to really understand, because if we trust this, then the wave goes back into the ocean. Whatever we are going through, the wave goes back into the ocean. When you understand that, you really, it's called the conduct or the fruition. And does that mean never take action, never have feelings, never do anything? No, it doesn't mean that at all. We see it. We might have to do something about it. If somebody's drowning, we're not going to say, oh, well, they're going back into the ocean. We're going to jump in and get that person out. But after that, we're going to drop it. That's what human beings can't do. They can't drop it. Whatever they're carrying is like that heavy barley bag, and it just goes on and on and on and on. I met somebody at dinner the other night who had had a terrible experience in which she got divorced and her husband has refused to let her see or have anything to do with the children for 4 years. Now, isn't it funny that she was seated next to me at the table, you know? So this conversation went on the whole night, you know, and then someone else came over and added to the conversation. And I just said to her, I just said it like this. I said, you know what? You and your ex-husband have been going on like this for many incarnations. And now you finally cut off from him. And unfortunately, there's a price tag here. I said to her, and the price tag is really, really painful and difficult for you, because he's even cut her off from WhatsApps, from anything, won't even let the children, he bribes them with money and he won't let the children even contact their mother. Very painful thing. But I said, you need to look at this and you need to see beyond it. That's the only way you're going to get there. You need now to drop this talking about this all the time in your life. You need to become a universal mother. They're all children waiting out there for you to take them and help them. I said, and I'll teach you, this is all at the dinner table, I'll teach you how to do Tonglen breathing. So you can breathe in all their darkness and breathe out loud. She loved that. So that at least she feels she's doing something with her children. And we have to go beyond. But then we have to drop it. For 4 years, that's all she's lived, eaten, slept, and dreamt with. It's time to drop it. We have to drop it so that it can go back into the ocean and other things can be created. Maybe you want to say something, because I've said a lot. Okay, I'm not even sure I'm going to give you the philosophy that I had here, because it's too many things and I want to go on to this third point. So does anybody want to, I'll just give you one quote from Namka Norbu, Ron and Sharon's teacher. Since we recognize that external appearances are merely ornaments, I love his word ornaments, because ornaments or embellishments of the real condition of existence. What's an ornament? You know, in your room, an ornament makes everything look nice. But if they were gone, they're not essential in your being, okay? They're just there. And he says they're ornaments or embellishments of the real condition of existence, which is your essence, your rikpa. Appearances which arise to the six sense aggregates are self-liberated into their own condition whenever they arise. Since we recognize that pure presence is just primal awareness as such, the manifestations of our passions and karmic traces are self-liberated into their own condition whenever they arise. And he goes on to say, karma is always something which belongs to the level of sem, not to your nature, the level of sem, while pure presence or rikpa lies beyond the limited functioning of the human mind. And in the circle of the sun, Charlie Gamkon says we should always rely on rikpa and not on sem, our ordinary consciousness. The ordinary states of consciousness are the source of one's perception and one's erroneous behavior. Rikpa is illuminating and can guide us on the right path. Any comments before we go on? Once you can understand this, you know, in the first, with the introduced to your nature of mind, we always, even Evie sitting here, knows those three aspects: the essence, the nature, and the manifestation. And that can come in a million different ways. You can make those three: the Dharmakaya, the Sambhogakaya, the Nirmanakaya. There are many, many, many different, but once you know them, and you know them in your being, the essence, nature, energy, the emptiness, clarity, and unobstructedness, the primordial purity, the spontaneous perfection, and the inseparability. Both are inseparable. There's the essence. It's creating all the time. That's the nature of the essence. But all those creations, no matter whether we see them as negative, come back into the essence. Once we understand that, and we understand the third aspect, which is unlimited energy. So when I'm very tired and at the moment, I'm very pressured with everything that's on my plate at this moment in time, and we've got to move sooner or later, so I've got to get that right too. And I've got so many things on my plate, but I keep thinking, but the Nirmanakaya, the third aspect, is unlimited energy. So what you need to do, there will always be energy in it, even though your mind says, no. You'll get that energy. Like this morning, I've had a bad night last night, and I thought, oh, I'm so tired, but here I am. I'm as alive as anything, taking my beautiful teaching and sharing it with all of you that you are here to listen to it. It's just stunning for me. Anyone want to say anything? Ron and Sharon, do you want to say something?
I just want to mention one thing that you just said now. There's no ways, looking at you now and listening to you and experiencing what I'm experiencing, that I'd ever think you had any problems in the world. So it doesn't come over. It comes over with clarity, and that's all that's important. I also just want to mention something quickly, because I don't know if I'll get an opportunity. I actually sent you a mail, so I don't know if your mail address has changed.
No, I couldn't open that that thing. I was going to come back to you when I get it, when I got a chance. Okay.
Yeah. This is actually, you know, there are 3 series of teachings. There's the Sem Day teaching, the Long Day, and the Mende. And this is from the Mende. So that's the highest of teachings. Yeah.
Very beautiful, beautiful. And I really want to see what you've got. I'm going to try again today and see if I can get another way to open it. But I meant to tell you, otherwise you definitely know you would have heard from me. But it's interesting, because when I'm out doing social and those kind of things, I can feel so tired. You know, as soon as you put me to the teaching, it's alive. I mean, that's all I can tell you. But then it's interesting that, isn't it funny that I should sit next to that girl in a big table of dinner that people had? I mean, that also tells you that, there really, really, really are interventions when you are ready for it. Because how ironic is it that she sits next to me? She doesn't know the first thing about Buddhism. She doesn't know about any mystical path in any way. She just knows she's got this big problem. And there I am. I introduce her to a whole new world in an hour of dinner, So it's that's what I've got to do. I've got to do that all the time, and then I'm energetic. But if you ask my husband, he'll say, no, she's always tired, this kind of thing. So, like you two, exactly the same at this age. No, she's always tired. Oh, give her Buddhism, and then she's as awake as can be, So,
but this is the whole point of Nirmanakaya and the manifestation, which just comes about. And that's where, if you interfere, you're creating karma. If you don't interfere, then it all just flows. I'll just give you an example. Last Monday, that's why we couldn't come here to the teachings. We were at the hospital. So we got there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I landed up next to a woman who I didn't know at that stage. I just sat down, waiting for Ron. Yeah, same thing. I listened to her for hours. She was dying of cancer, and I had to listen to everything and watch her eating chocolate after chocolate after chocolate. She was waiting for her interview to come about. We were there until 12 o'clock before we saw a doctor because of the delays in that place, by which stage Ron and myself were also fraught with our own things, but all sorts of things happened, between us. Yeah. And somehow at the end, after we'd seen doctors and everything, I just went up to her and I said to her, what is the outcome? Are you having an operation? And she said, I don't know. I'm waiting for the surgeon. So I said, well, in that case, I think they're going to operate. I wish you good luck. And, I sent her all the loving kindness I could. But we were there for until 2, 3 o'clock. We only got home at 7 o'clock that night. But it's like something we have to go through. I don't know why. But we
have to go through, because you have to take all the people that are sitting there and even give them a little droplet, a little seed or something like that. I mean, that you just absolutely have to, that's what you're there for, clearly.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's why these masters are in prison in Tibet, because they have to help the people, the torturers and everything, to change their whole philosophy. So they agree to go into prison, to be tortured, to be this, to be that. I mean, it's just, it's mind-boggling, their bravery and everything. It really is how brave they are and how they look with a different input and a different view. So amazing to me.
Well, I look at it as from a point of view that I'm actually grateful for the opportunity to actually put the teachings into practice.
It's amazing, but somebody else might take that they have to wait at a public hospital or something as a real insult or something, or some really angry thing. I think you sent there because every time you're there, you meet a whole stack of people and you give your kindness and everything to them. And that is amazing because there's so many people in those situations, It's really, really amazing. And I'm just telling all of you that once you have Rikpa, this is what happened to me in the supermarket the other day, on Thursday. I was in the supermarket and there was a girl standing next to the vegetables at Woolworth and she's staring at me. And I go, is something the matter? So she says, no, I just feel I know you. So I said, well, where from? She said, I don't know, but can you tell me your name? So I told her my name, and then she said, oh, yes, I've been to some of your groups many years ago, blah, blah, blah. She said, it's very strange because this morning I lay on my bed. What happened to her was she had some kind of procedure and landed up absolutely paralyzed in a wheelchair for 2 years. And she said, now she's just started walking. She's got crutches and everything to walk on from this paralysis and everything. And she said, this morning I made a special prayer that I would meet somebody who could help me to the next phase. She said, and here you are, please give me your number and I want to come to you. It's very, very interesting because, I said to her, do you know that you create your circumstances? Do you know that when you need that kind of help, you can create that help to manifest for you? And that's what she did. She manifested me in the morning and found me and then told me who she was, which is absolutely amazing. So now I will be able to help her or bring her into groups or something like that and give her a completely different perspective to her paralysis. So these things happen all the time. It's the most amazing, amazing things. And if we are aware, then we see that Rigpa creates that kind of thing. So just to go back last week, so I think I'm not actually going to go back. You can go back, but let's look at the third state, the third point, okay, that we continue with confidence in liberation of everything, to continue in a state of contemplation. Whatever arises in the mind self-liberates. That word self-liberates, you'll come across it in much of the Dzogchen teaching. Self-liberation doesn't mean liberation of the self. It means it liberates by itself. And we're going to do some of those techniques today of how to liberate it. He says, this final statement of Garab Dorje is connected with what Sharon was talking about, the Upadesha series of the Dzogchen teaching. Those are the secret instructions. So you first get each of the instructions of each of the essence, the creativity, and then you go to the Upadesha series, which are the secret instructions. Now, when you get to that level of the third point of Garab Dorje, this series assumes that we have already been introduced to Rigpa, and we already know how to enter the state of contemplation, which we're going to do in a moment again. Remember, the state of contemplation is so simple that it's mind-boggling, because the state of contemplation is when the internal awareness, that's your intrinsic Rigpa, and the external appearance meet each other. So it could be for a moment that you have a particular thought or you have a particular experience. And in that moment, in contemplation, that experience meets that Rigpa and they're joined together. If not, then it becomes a duality. Here I am experiencing that. But in contemplation, they are joined together. So actually, it doesn't make the slightest difference how many thoughts you have, how many feelings you have, or anything. As soon as you see that they are merely the creativity of Rigpa, the creativity of your essence, they are joined. I can't express this to you more deeply than this. And you can't do it intellectually. It's got to be done in an experience which we'll go into now. And these Upadesha texts principally offer advice on how to continue in this state. What state? This state where you absolutely have confidence in the liberation of whatever thoughts or feelings come. Throws the student into the water immediately and you either sink or swim, either or. Rigpa, or in immediate intrinsic awareness, has been liberated from the very beginning. It doesn't need liberate. It's primordially liberated. It's primordially liberated. Can you let her in, Bern? It's primordially liberated. The word confidence, deng, in this context, refers to a confidence in the process that liberates discursive thoughts. As they arise, you stable your meditation, you settle into contemplation, and we become free of all notions of subject and object, no duality. The thoughts are no longer grasped at nor apprehended. They're just allowed to be. They're allowed to liberate themselves. They're just allowed to be, okay? And they're allowed to liberate into their own original consciousness condition, which is the state of emptiness. They never were solid. They never were you. They were always just the creativity of your essence. That's all. And they go into their own original state of emptiness. If no confidence in this method of self-liberation, if you're just practicing shamatha, like a lot of people, they go on these, 10-day retreats, shamatha retreats, and then 5 weeks of vipassana, or a week or 10 days of vipassana, looking into the mind, but you can't go to the vipassana before you've done the shamatha. That's absolutely true if you're climbing the mountain. But if you've already climbed the mountain, then you understand that if you just do shamatha, which is calm abiding, if you're talking to people and you say, yes, I meditate, they go, oh, I wish I could just get into that calm state. That's what people think meditation is, getting into a calm state. Now, when you start, that's a very good idea from your mind that's all over the place. You do shamatha. Taisitu made me do long period of shamatha. I used to put blank sheets in front of me just to make my mind, absolutely made me. But once I'd done the shamatha and my mind was stabilized and balanced, then you need to move on. Because otherwise, what happens to you, you land up being reborn in a mental plane. I'll explain that to you in a minute, where dhyana concentration, the level attained when you go into shamatha, if you master the first dhyana in meditation practice, you can attain rebirth among the Brahma gods. Now, that's not a bad thing. I mean, the Brahma gods have beautiful lives, okay? They really do. It's a subtle mental plane in a subtle mental body, and great auras of light and no sensual desires and passions. But it still belongs to samsara. It is not ultimate liberation. It's very nice when they tell us that their lifetimes are long lifetimes, many, many, many human years. But it's not eternal and it's not everlasting. That's why you always hear when the Buddha was teaching, the gods come and say, please won't you teach? Because they want to learn it. So they've still got a whole way to go. But if you just do calm abiding, you will only be able to go into those realms. You'll never be able to liberate yourself. It's very important. Different mental planes for different levels of dhyana, from the form level, which is subtle, to the formless. So where it's so subtle that you don't even have a visible form, it's called samapatis, or levels of cosmic consciousness. And some religious traditions consider attaining samapatis, the experience with of mystics, as attaining union with God, because you're not thinking things all the time. You're in that lovely thing. Hey, you two, stop. Can you hear the dogs or not? Okay, so then we don't. Can you? Okay, some of you can. Depends on your level of thing, because I don't know what you hear. Okay, but these mystical experiences are characterized by bliss, luminosity, and spaciousness, but they're not rigpa. I want you all to understand that. They're mystical experiences, but not the ultimate goal, which is unconditioned existence, okay, way beyond samsara. It's not samsara and it's not nirvana like the God realms, okay? So it's really important because those beings can control their unconscious impulses a lot, but they'll never discover the rigpa. So as he says here, like if you visit a dark room with a mysterious object, no matter how many times you visit that dark room, it's not the same as carrying it with us into the sunlight, wherever we go, whatever we do. That's what we're doing here. We're here to serve. We're here to give. We're here to share. We're not here to get a wonderful life for ourselves. That's absolutely irrelevant. When I hear what Ron and Sharon have to sit at the hospital for, 8 hours, 9 hours or something, I mean, it would drive me absolutely nuts. But I would probably have a group at the hospital by the time we were finished in a queue, because they're there for a reason. They've got this beautiful knowledge, wisdom, and they're there to share it with everybody and not to be totally as victims themselves. So it's beautiful. And contemplation is not locked up in our meditation sessions, okay? Without attachment or aversion, we recognize that whatever arises is truly the manifestation of the creative energy of Rigpa. Rigpa, or intrinsic awareness, if you prefer the word. This knowledge is the basis of liberation. So let's go to the 3 kinds of, or 4 kinds of liberation, actually. Okay, when we actually develop that awareness, it's like a mirror reflecting all busy mental activity, but detached and unaffected. Last week in the Tuesday group, I was telling them that story about the Dalai Lama, and I've told you this story about where he gives this old guy comes to him, his old monk, and wants to do a practice, and he says, no, it's too strenuous for you. You couldn't manage this practice. But he says, when you come back in next time round, you'll be able to. Anyway, the monk committed suicide because he so much wanted to do the practice. And then the Dalai Lama was being interviewed, and they asked him, have you got regret? And he said, of course I regret telling him that. He said, but my regret is different to your regret. When I have regret, it's a part of my heart, but I don't focus on it. I don't attach to it. I don't demand of it. It's just something that is there and that goes back into everything. Now, if you can have that attitude about all the things you are worried about, yes, there is a worry. Yes, I haven't got food. Yes, I'm not in good health. Yes, I'm whatever. But, it's just an expression of Rigpa for something you need to learn. There are a lot of you that are going through horrible things with illness in this group. And the thing is, you've got to see it as, you are clearing impure karma. You are clearing it through your illness, and you look at it in a completely different manner. You say, I'm here. I obviously have created stuff that I have to get rid of. I'm sitting with Evie here, Patricia there. All of them have got really heavy things to go through. But you know what? They're going to go through them with great courage, and they're going to use them to clear those karmic imprints so that by the time they come to death, it's gone. So I just want to, did you want to say something, you two? Please, Ron.
Ron wants to say something.
Please.
Melanie, a lot has been said about awareness, and I'm not going into detail when Sharon and I were at this little episode for a couple of thousand hours. But
you
I
still
was
got
practicing-
humor note.
Sorry.
You've always got humor, which is wonderful. Okay.
Always,
Well,
always, yeah.
well,
If I told you all the things that happened to us, you wouldn't believe it. There's so many other things, but there's always humor, always.
Always makes people laugh.
This was one of the things. As soon as I wanted to express myself, somebody said something. So what I'm coming to with this practice of awareness, it seems that awareness is like a universal remote control. You see? So
Very interesting.
I can stop everything
Like that.
just plugging into this universal remote control. So I'm free. So I was free for a while, but after a few hours, it became quite draining. But then there's something else there that was coming to mind in this form, that the Buddha said,
Yes.
or words to this effect, that everything is unreal. So I tried that. I'm sitting there, I thought everything is unreal, but it didn't seem to apply, because from my point of view, now the Buddhist point of view is everything unreal, but from my point of view, sitting there, it was very important to me. So through that importance, I couldn't relax. So that is what prevented relaxation. So I can't sit and say to myself, I'm going to relax, because that's an instruction. So I'm cutting myself off from everything. So I've got to release that and not ask for that, because that is my block. When I'm saying to myself, why did this happen to me? Why am I sitting up for 20 hours? It seems like 20 years. What am I doing there? No. In that situation, this is the opportunity now that is given, is how can I work through this by not working, just by accepting things as they are, and that's how it is. So this person who was talking all the time, I looked at this person and I thought, this is the Buddha, and it changed the whole thing. So
Brilliant.
this is the parts there that I'm beginning to see, and that the fact that I'm feeling uncomfortable or not happy is nobody's problem. It's something that I'm projecting, and if I can release that projection, then the prayers that we are saying begin to move sense. And those prayers are, may all beings be happy in the cause of happiness, may they never be unhappy, and all that. So here am I, just saying this prayer but not believing it, because if I start believing it, then it changes and becomes, here is an opportunity for me to practice, and then I give thanks for that. So the whole thing changes also. So after all these hours of sitting there, which seemed like years, then we driving home now, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I got to just stop thinking to myself.
It's true.
That's all. So
You know, it's so beautiful what you're saying, so beautiful, because I think that's what people find when they're in those terrible situations, and especially when you've got a philosophy, that says they're not terrible situations, they're opportunities. But when you could do exactly what you did and just let them be, even though you're going through a lot of suffering, when you could just allow yourself to touch that intrinsic awareness, that part of you is the part that knows you're in the right place at the right time, going through the right thing in the right place, everything like that. It's so amazing. And I think what you're saying is so important for all of you going through things, that you're not in the wrong place, you're in the right place. And that if you can do that, it's really important. But let's do the liberation before it gets too late, because when we're going to end this today. And let's just look at, I just want you to understand that the mode of liberation for all four practices, really three, but sometimes they do it into, we're talking about self-liberation. It liberates of itself. All four practices are really the same, bar one difference. The beginning practice, which is called shared drawl, liberation through bare, B-A-R-E, attention, okay? That is a little slower process. Bare attention, you know, if you look in all the meditative things, they say bare attention. That means you're looking at that thing with absolute bare attention, B-A-R-E, not B-E-A-R, bare attention. And as you're looking at it, it then is able to liberate. We're going to practice this. That's the first type of practice. But if you stay with that, you won't be able to transcend. So it goes quicker. That practice is called recognizing thoughts like meeting a person we've met before. That's very interesting, because when you meet someone you've met before, like that girl in the supermarket, you say, hello, who are you? You know, tell me your name again. There's a little gap between when you see the thought, you meet it with bare attention, and then you let it liberate. Okay, there's a gap. The second one, shared drawl, is liberation as soon as it arises. There's a slight gap, not like in the first one. There's a slight gap, but then thoughts liberate themselves after arising, like a snake unknotting itself from, you know, when a snake gets into a knot, it can unknot itself for. So, but there's still a little bit of space between your seeing the thought and letting it go. Then the third one is called run drawl, which is self-liberation. The thoughts arise into their immediate and spontaneous liberation. So you're so well practiced and well versed that the minute some thought or object arises, it's liberated at the same time. And they say, like a thief entering an empty house and finding nothing to steal. Okay, so it's instantaneous, okay? No harm or benefit comes to the state of contemplation from arising and liberating thoughts. There's no interruption. So you can be sitting at the station, you can be sitting in a supermarket, you can be sitting there, and this thought arises, and you just let it liberate, because you've got Rigpa all the time. And Rigpa shines its light on this. Oh, here I am. And you stop going back to thinking again and again and again and again. Then there is a fourth one, we're going to practice them now, called primordial liberation, which Patrul Rinpoche talks about. And these, the first three modes of liberation refer to the process of liberating thoughts, whereas primordial liberation refers to Rigpa itself, which has never been otherwise than totally liberated from the very beginning. There's actually nothing to liberate. So it's just that little thing, but the 3 and 4 are similar, but one is primordial liberation. So it's, I don't care if you do the first one for a long time, just start practicing this. We're going to start doing it. We're going to just get into a state of contemplation, okay? And then we're going to practice all. Okay, so I'm just putting that on for the gong. So I want you to just come to a beautiful state, the state of contemplation, okay, before we do the liberation. When you come to the state of contemplation, it's a lovely, lovely state to be in, because it doesn't matter what's happening to you. It makes no difference whatsoever. So I want you just to start by breathing in. And when you breathe out, I want you to relax your physical body totally and utterly. As you're breathing in and out, I want you to check where you are not relaxed. Maybe you're tensing your hands, maybe you're tensing your forehead, maybe you're tensing your neck, maybe you're tensing your hands. Whatever tension you feel, relax with the out breath. Let every bit of tension go. The more tense, the more you use your energy for psychic disturbance. When you absolutely relax, calmly, then you are in a beautiful, beautiful state. So when you do this for a longer period at home, please see that you relax your body totally and that you remember that neither the calm state of shamatha nor the movement of thoughts and insight vipassana represents rigpa. Rigpa can be discovered in your still calm mind as well as in your moving mind full of thoughts. Rigpa is not the experience itself, but the immediate awareness of that experience. So while you're sitting there, just become totally aware. If there's a noise, you're not blissing out, you're blissing in. So if there's a noise in your house, it's irrelevant. If there's a thought coming up, it's irrelevant. You just want to be in the one thing, the presence of immediate awareness. So you want to know exactly what's going on. And you want to know that when we become aware like that, there is an unrestricted and unlimited capacity of the mirror of our minds to reflect everything. And those experiences, your thoughts, your feelings, are just the creative play, Sal in Tibetan, of the mind. Let them be. We don't suppress them. We don't interfere with them. We don't get distracted by them. We don't follow them. We just recognize them to be the continuous display of the inherent creative energy of primal awareness. This is the state of contemplation. You could do it anywhere. When you're waiting for children, when you're sitting in a busy supermarket, when you're in a queue, you can just come to that state. It's non-meditation because it lies beyond the workings of the mind. In contemplation, internal awareness and external appearance encounter each other and become integrated. So whatever is happening in your life, if you're thinking, wow, this is boring, or wow, this is exciting, or wow, I want to try this, or I've got to do this after the group, or I'm really not feeling well today, whatever, just let them come and know that that intrinsic awareness, the rigpa in your heart, is made of the same material as that thought. Let them meet each other. If they don't, then we think, I am here and my thoughts are out there, or my thoughts are in my head, or my thoughts are somewhere else. No, they meet each other in contemplation. Now we're going to go to the liberation. Just sit for a moment in your contemplation and let's go to the liberation. share, draw. Liberation through bare attention. As soon as the thought arises, so if you're not thinking, if you're in a lovely state, then make yourself think so you can practice with me. So whatever thought, you turn your attention to the thought as soon as it arises, and you recognize it as a thought. Oh, a thought, whatever your thought is. You become aware of its presence. You recognize it as thought on the one hand, and it's dissolving again on the other. So as you see it, it's almost like you're shining Rigpa on it. You see it and you recognize it, know it. You know that it's just the play of the energy. And so it's there, but you recognize it. And then it liberates itself. It dissolves right then and there. So there's a gap when you see it and you know that it's there and you recognize it and you let it liberate itself. There's a gap between that. Try it. And practice it, everybody. Practice it again and again. Now we go a little deeper. And we go into the second mode, which is called Shar Draw, liberation as soon as it arises. There's still a little gap, but Patrul Rinpoche illustrates this with example of drawing pictures on the surface of a water. So imagine yourself drawing pictures or writing on water. The drawing and the dissolving are simultaneous, but there's a little gap between self-arising and self-liberating thoughts, but no attempt to suppress the thoughts. Spontaneous, effortless thoughts are carried by their own momentum into the natural state and liberated. Thus, thoughts arising, purified by the very potentiality of your Dharmakaya, of your essence, and awareness is strong and clearer. And actually, if you are feeling angry or scared or anxious or something like that, if you are feeling, the passion becomes the friend and the helper of Rigpa, like Ron told us. Discursive thoughts arise as manifestations of inherent energy, of directly penetrating nature of Rigpa itself. Just continue. No accepting, no rejecting. Yet continue to hold the recognition of the Dharmakaya on the side of liberation. So let your thought arise and let it dissolve. There's still a subtle duality here. You're still aware of me liberating the thought. So it's a little further than the first one, but it doesn't matter which you do. Try it. Take your thought, recognize it. I'm angry with my friend from yesterday. As you recognize, but it's only an expression of Rigpa, liberated like the waves into the ocean. The third one, called Run Draw, self-liberation. So you're not really doing like a thief entering an empty house and there's nothing to steal. No harm or benefit or anything like that. What happens is the minute a thought arises, it's instantly liberated. It's hard for us to do this, but you can practice a lot. It's instantly liberated. The very arising of the thought is their liberation. No distinction. Liberation is completely automatic, spontaneous, effortless, instantaneous. And that process is known as self-liberation. Their very arising is the process of their liberating. This is a method proper to Dzogchen, and all the others are preparation. Remember, in the highest yoga, it doesn't matter if you're a bit crazy, it doesn't matter if you've got a lot of thoughts, a little thoughts, it doesn't matter if you feel angry about something or sad about something or anxious about something. It's just all par for the course. It's just the expression of the mind. And as it expresses, it liberates itself straight away. So if you're going through a frightening experience, it just dissipates completely. We won't worry about the last one. Now, practice this at home a lot, and practice it wherever you are. Someone steals your parking. Practice it before you even meet that person. Someone annoys you. Practice that anger is just part of the complete self-liberation. You feel it, it's gone. You feel it, it's gone. You think it, it's gone. Everything is gone. Listen, it's definitely like, why didn't we know this earlier in our lives, because it really does make sense, when you think about it. I mean, it's such amazing teaching. I'm very, very sold on it. And I try and do it all the time. The minute I'm annoyed, I just come. I'd like to do it where I am, but it's not easy until you've had a lot of experience. Does anyone want to ask anything or say anything about how it feels for you?
Melanie,
Yes, please.
if you find it really hard, certain things that are really, quite ingrained, how do you work through,
It's a good question, a very good question, because you know what? It's just training. You train and you train and you train. You slip up and you train again. You slip up and train again. You could slip up 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times. It doesn't really make any difference. Just as long, and I think as we get older, it becomes easier because we have a little bit of wisdom. Unfortunately, my children don't realize that. My own children, okay. But we have a little bit of wisdom, so we're not quite as excitable, especially if you've been on a journey. But you just practice and practice and practice and practice until it is second nature. And just put a little thing of water in front of you like this. Put a bucket of water, or when you're going to wash in so you don't waste the water. Then take your finger and draw on the water. Okay. And what happens is the water just goes back to its original thing. You can draw and draw and draw and draw on the water. Do it in your bath, those of you that have a bath. I don't bath. But if you actually draw on the water, it just goes back to what it was before. And then you go, I get it. I get this, and then you'll still slip up. Tomorrow you'll still be angry with someone, annoyed with someone, anxious about something, whatever. Then you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. You do it over and over and over again until it's second nature. And trust me, it's not second nature to me. I can do it, but it's very hard. Very hard. And just practice and practice and practice, and do it a lot in your meditations and everything. But I just want to give you a little bit of Patrul Rinpoche's Upadesha teachings. Those are the secret teachings at the head. I just want to tell you a couple of things he says. He concludes that these three essential points of Garab Dorje, and you must know them off by heart. You mustn't have to look them up. You're introduced to the nature of mind. You definitively decide on that Rigpa, and you have confidence in liberation. Just those three, you keep them wherever you go. He says, these 3 points alone are sufficient to carry the practitioner immediately into the state of directly penetrating awareness called Rigpa Zangtal. And it represents a unification of the view, the path, the conduct, and the fruit of the great perfection. Okay, it's really, really important. And he says, this Upadesha, especially in the old days in Tibet, is a secret instruction. It communicated in private and confidence from a master to the disciple. And Upadesha is based more on the personal experience of the master in meditation than on philosophical analysis and scholastic tradition. And it's never was spoken about in public, aloud. The direct personal experience of this naked primal awareness, the view itself, which is immediate intrinsic awareness, encompasses all your meditation and all your conduct. The view and the meditation practice are ultimately identical, having a single taste. And he says, when you get these instructions and you come to the top of where you really understand them, then you are given by the master the secret traditions of Trekchor and Togal, the two secret instructions right at the top. Now, if you look at them, I'm not going to say very much about them. I'm certainly not qualified to say. I'm just going to give you my things, and I'm going to give you one other idea, and that is that if you look at the two terms that they use Jnana, which in Tibetan is Yeshe. My dog thinks that's him. Yeshe. Okay. Direct, immediate, intuitive knowing beyond dualistic intellectual mind, outside of time, space, labeling, judging. It's prior to the human mind, Jnana or Yeshi, okay? But Prajna, or Sherab, as it's known in Tibetan, is below Jnana, but above intellectual knowledge. So we call it discriminating awareness. It knows the difference between what's true and what is relative and ultimate. It knows it. And, we need some prajna because we need discriminating awareness. We need that discriminating knowledge or wisdom when we're functioning in samsara. We really, really do. So those two are very, very important, because the one is totally beyond the mind. And the other is discriminating and discerning between the relative and the ultimate, is also beyond the mind, but not to the level of the jnana or the yeshi. It's really important that you understand that. But if you look at the two practices at the top of this Dzogchen, they are mind-boggling, and yet they are the simplest things. I'm not even going to read you. You can read the book if you want, and maybe you'll understand a lot of the last testament of Garab Dorje and the golden letters. But these two practices, if you look at them, Trekcho, sometimes called Tekcho, and if you look at the last three words, it's Chur, and the Chur practice is the cutting through, when you cut through all the garbage. So Trekcho or Tekcho, sometimes it's written in different spellings, is the cutting through of the rigidities. And I'm sorry, Karen's not here. She might have wanted to come in. She's gone for some reason. Okay, but the cutting through of all your rigidities and all your tensions, just letting them be, that is what Trekcho is. And resting the mind, not in shamatha, but in the essence. In the essence. You know, if you rest your mind in the essence, it's fascinating, because the essence is not just plain emptiness. It's filled with, you know, when I look at the sky, sometimes the blue sky, because I can see it from my seat here. When I look at the blue sky, I'm looking very deeply at the blue sky. And after a while of looking, I'm talking about a cloudless day, you suddenly see all the little, I can't explain it in any way. It's like a luminous little things that are in the sky when I'm looking. And those are the creativity of the essence. The sky is the essence. It's blue, it's spacious, it's open. But in it are these little, if you look at them, you can actually see them, because you can see the awareness, because it's not just plain emptiness. It's got that awareness in it. It's not just blank. It's not nothingness. It's actually everythingness. And that's what the Trekcho practice is for. And those of you that want to can go on to Lama Lena's. She gives the most wonderful, I mean, she's probably the only person that does it. She's amazing. She gives instructions on Trekcho, just being able to sit in emptiness. She gives beautiful instructions, and you can even do her meditations, how she teaches you to actually embody Trekcho. But ultimately, what you see in Trekcho is, if you take a bundle of sticks that are all tied up together and you cut the tie, the sticks just relax. The tensions and the rigidities relax. And then you are who you need to be. Now, Togal is a very secret practice, and it's not spoken about by many people. In some of the books, you can read the visions of Togal. There are 4 visions teaching you. But what is the basis of the Togal practice? It is when you take your rigpa, and your rigpa comes up the channel and through the eyes, your real eyes, not your inner eye. And then you are looking into space. You eventually start to see the real expression of the essence. The Vajra chains. It starts with little things all over, little chains that look like your channels with the chakras in it. They many thousands of them. And then you see in that the bindus. The bindus are these beautiful rainbow colored things that eventually start coming into entities and beings and things. So the Togal is not a visualization, and it tells you in the golden letters, it's a vision, a real vision of who you are. It's how you would be if you could see yourself in truth, not the clothes you're wearing, not the physical person, but how you really are in truth. Okay. And you are able to see it. And the masters that use that Toggle practice, it's with beautiful colors, exquisite colors and rainbows and all the visions until the visions dissolve. And then that master attains the rainbow body. And even the rainbow body has got different levels of it. That proper going over. But once you attain the rainbow body that I had the cheek to ask Tarsi to help me to get, okay? But once you get the rainbow body, you are free. You can live here, you can live in the Pure Lands, you can live in the Buddha dimensions, you can live in another planet. You just manifest wherever you are needed, like Guru Rinpoche, when he demonstrated in the 8th century, he had the highest transference of the rainbow body. And then he just goes wherever he is needed, whatever he is needed, at whatever dimensions, low, high, Pure Lands and everything. I think that's so beautiful. And that's enough of what I'm teaching you. You can go and read up for yourselves, because otherwise I'll say things and I'll get into trouble. Okay. So I'm not going to say more on that. I'm just going to say it's the most beautiful teaching. The golden letters are the most privileged, beautiful teaching that you could get. And I'm very privileged to have you to give my rubbish way of doing it. I try and make it into, at least for you to understand. But when I read it and study it and practice it, I'm in my element. Okay. And when I give it to you, I'm in my element. So I hope that you can derive even that much until you meet a real teacher and a real master, and they'll give it to you flat on and in wonderful ways. And then you'll say, you know, my Dharma friend Melanie, you know, she told me a little bit about this and it hit the nail. But, you know, now I'm getting the real thing from a real teacher and a real master, which is really, but I love it. So I have to teach it. And we'll go on next week with a completely different subject matter. And then maybe we'll come back to this. Look, I haven't even nearly finished this, but I don't want to bore you, and I can't put number 15 and number 25. I mean, people are never going to look at that. So I think it's enough of that. And we'll go on to a new subject, but I'll still come back and teach you lots of things from this, because there's so much I can't tell you. And the other thing, which is really, really important to teach you, is the, I'll tell you what it's called, and then I'm going to end now. Where is it? The special teaching, the glories, the cuckoo of awareness, which is a 6-line prayer, which is really, really, really this summarized. And the cuckoo of awareness is really very, very beautiful. And we'll take this up a little bit later in the year, maybe, if I'm around and you're around. And we'll take it up, and that also gives you exactly the same thing, but in a short prayer like that, all these things that I'm telling you. So let's end, and then if anybody wants to ask me, please do, because it's really important that you understand this. And let's dedicate this to the beauty of this truth of who we are, to all sentient beings, to all of them in the wars, to all the peace process, to all the leaders who are really being ugly and not worrying about the people and not high in their mean. Through the merit of this teaching, may all beings attain omniscience, may all obscurations fall away from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may all beings be freed. Sonam diye tamche zipane topne nebe pranam pamshene jega nachi bala dropaye sipe sole doa drowarsho.